Recently, there have been talks that Sony wants to acquire Kadokawa Corporation, which publishes mangas, animes, and also owns quite a few game studios. So I decided to look it up, and Kadokawa Corporation right now, at the time of this recording, is currently valued at 555 billion yen, which in USD, because they don't have stocks in the US stock market, it would be valued at $3.5 billion, which is quite a lot actually. Here are the subsidiaries of Kadokawa. If you want to check them out, you can pause the video here. They do have a couple of subsidiaries that are not based in Japan, such as Tourista Limited, which is more of a shipping company importing and exporting, located, I believe, in Malta. Then there's J Novel Club, which is a publishing company that specializes in translating Japanese light novels into English, and is located in Texas, United States. There's Gasperu Press, which is a publishing company as well, located in Nova Scotia, and Kadokawa Pictures America Incorporated. So obviously, also in the US. Now, for the gaming companies that they own, Kadokawa owns Acquire Corp, which produces Tenchu and Akiba Strip, or at least have produced one Tenchu game, Tenchu Way of the Samurai. Not sure if they have worked in the other Tenchu games or not. They also own Gacha Games, which are the ones who created RPG Maker. They also own Spike Chunsoft, so for any fan of Danganronpa, that's immediately recognizable. And of course, FromSoftware, which creates the Dark Souls series, including Elden Ring, and also Armored Core. And one of the misconceptions regarding FromSoftware is that the Sekiro IP, a lot of people have said that it's owned by Activision. It's actually not. The IP is owned by FromSoftware, so it's trademarked in Japan and they own it. Activision just published it internationally. So let's say that Sony is factually trying to acquire Kadokawa Corporation. Earlier this year, Sony has actually announced that they will be setting aside $11.5 billion for strategic investments through fiscal year 2026. So they announced this earlier this year, 2024, and so far they haven't really made any major acquisitions. No, Firewalk Studios was not acquired this year. They acquired it last year, 2023. So get out of here, Dawn. No one likes, no one likes that. From their current acquisitions for this year, I haven't really seen anything major. Not really related to gaming at all, and none of them have crossed even half a billion dollars or anything like that. So far I believe they still have a lot of money set aside for acquisitions. We have to be more aware and actually face the fact that giant corporations like Sony, Microsoft is like way bigger than Sony, but even Sony at their current size, they're year by year they are acquiring companies, so it's kind of crazy to think about. Obviously, from the current valuation of Kadokawa and the money that Sony still has for strategic investments and of course acquisitions, they surely do have the cash flow to buy Kadokawa Corporation. Let's say that they are acquiring Kadokawa. So can the FTC do anything about it? From what I've gathered here in the official Federal Trade Commission's website, their government website. The Federal Trade usually just, the FTC for America usually just interferes with mergers and acquisitions happening between two US companies, which is not the case for Sony and Kadokawa. Sony's headquarters is still in Japan. It's PlayStation that is in California. Their headquarters, PlayStation headquarters, is in California, which is a major problem for gamers. It should really move back to Japan, in my opinion. So, can the FTC actually block the merger between Sony and Kadokawa Corporation? Parts of it, yes, they can block it. Like, there are, like I mentioned, subsidiaries of Kadokawa that are not in Japan. So I believe they can block Sony from acquiring some of those American subsidiaries. However, in terms of gaming and the actual merger, I don't believe that they have the capacity to block it because it is between two Japanese companies. I'm not sure why people are saying that the FTC should block it, because the FTC is an American regulatory body, and since both companies are headquartered in Japan and one of them does not really even have like an actual branch or a major branch in the US, because Kadokawa doesn't even exist in the US stock market. The only thing you could buy, well, you could still buy their shares, of course. You could buy a lot of shares in the US that is not in the US stock market through over-the-counter transactions. But yeah, it's not really an established American company. It's not in America, so they can stop the parts of Kadokawa that does operate in America. They can stop Sony from acquiring that if they so choose to. But they can't stop Sony from acquiring all the Japanese companies that Kadokawa has, such as FromSoftware and the other gaming companies that I've mentioned. Also, they don't have any branches in the US, so I'm not sure how the FTC is going to stop that. I think it's a bit of an overreach if they are able to sort of dictate how, like, the major businesses in other countries outside of the US that does not have a branch in the US can operate. That's crazy to think about. Like, does the US just control everything now? It's crazy. No hate for the country. It's just it seems like dystopian in a way. So to clarify this more, the FTC does regularly work with other they work with other agencies who also monitors mergers and acquisitions and consumer rights that are established in the governments of other countries. So countries that are prosperous enough to need to have regulations within their economy. All those countries have their own governing bodies, their own version of the FTC. Like for the UK, there's the CMA. While I highly doubt that the FTC can block the merger between Sony and Kadokawa if Sony ever decides to buy Kadokawa and Kadokawa agrees, including all the other companies that owns a major share in Kadokawa, of course, or at least a majority of the owner of Kadokawa's stocks within Japan have to agree. Anyway, getting back to it, I highly doubt the FTC can block the merger. However, they have the right to fine companies that are selling their goods in the US. For example, if there's suddenly like a huge price hike or any sort of anything basically that they can attribute to going against consumer rights, the FTC can fine the company, especially if they have recently went through a merger and acquisition. Now, let's say that the FTC can block Sony's acquisition of Kadokawa. Let's say they block it. Where can they block it? They can block it in the US. So other governing bodies would have to decide if they want to block it in their countries. So let's say it's blocked. Then Sony, that Kadokawa would still be able to sell their products in the US, but it sort of gets tricky. Like Sony won't be able to like dictate anything to Kadokawa on how they would sell to the US, how they would price their products and such, or how they would release. But for other countries, if they allow it, then Sony would be publishing Kadokawa's games. For my personal opinions, I actually don't want Sony to acquire Kadokawa Corporation. I don't really see any difference between the current PlayStation, the way that PlayStation currently does its business. It's very American in my opinion. With the DEI, ESG stuff is very strong. The selective censorship is very apparent if you pay enough attention. It's crazy, and I don't want mangas to be censored because of that. I don't want my animes to be censored because of that. I don't want animes to stop showing blood all of a sudden. That's yeah. And I don't want their designs to become like Concord designs. I really don't trust Sony at this point, or at least I don't trust the current management with the BlackRock funding. Yeah, I don't really view them as any different from Microsoft, though they still do make games that I'm interested in. I hope Kadokawa remains in Japan. I hope it remains Japanese. And that's pretty much it. The rest would be just gameplay of The First Descendant because I'm crazy about the game right now, waiting for Season 2. And hopefully you enjoyed the video and see you soon. Goodbye.